All right, let's dive in. We're going to try and unlock this super complex, mostly invisible legal world that, believe it or not, runs our entire digital lives. You know, every time you click something, log in, or just interact with anything online, there's this massive web of rules that's supposed to be protecting you. But how does that actually work? Especially when a crime happens on the internet, which, as we know, has no borders.
Okay, to really get our heads around this, we're going to peel it back layer by layer, kind of like an onion. And we'll start with a problem that's, well, probably a little too familiar for many of us.
First up, the hook. Let's kick things off with a scenario I'm sure you've heard of. Heck, maybe you've even been through it. This will help ground all the abstract legal stuff we're about to get into. So it all starts with one of those super convincing emails, right? The kind that looks exactly like it's from your bank. You click a link, you put in your login details on what looks like the real website, and bam! A criminal has your password, they get into your account, and your money is just gone. It's a depressingly common story, for sure. But here's the question. What exactly makes this a crime in the eyes of the law? Okay, so what is the rulebook for this stuff? Let's peel back that first layer of the onion and look at the absolute bedrock legal principles that take something from just a really frustrating online experience to an actual punishable crime. This is it. This is the foundation for everything. It's called the principle of legality. And what it means, in simple terms, is that you can't be punished for doing something if it wasn't actually illegal when you did it. The law has to be on the books before the act. No retroactive crimes. It's a huge deal. And look, this isn't just some dusty old legal concept. It's a fundamental human right. It's literally written into major international agreements like the European Convention on Human Rights. Why? To make sure that the laws we live under are clear, stable, and predictable for everyone. So the law here is basically split into two big buckets. You've got substantive law. Think of that as the what. It's the part that actually defines what counts as a crime. You know, illegal access, fraud, that kind of stuff. Then you've got procedural law. That's the how. It's the rule book for how you investigate and prosecute those crimes, like how you collect evidence. And you absolutely need both. They go hand in hand. Okay, so we've got the laws. We know what a crime is. But this is where things get really fascinating. How do police actually investigate a crime that doesn't exist in the physical world? A crime that's just bits and bytes on a server somewhere. A purely digital crime scene. Well, investigators have some seriously powerful tools. They're often called coercive methods, which is a formal way of saying they can do this stuff without your permission. We're talking about searching your computer systems, both online and in person, seizing your phone, your laptop, even intercepting your emails and messages as they happen. They can get court orders that force companies like your internet provider to hand over your data. Make no mistake, these are incredibly invasive powers. And right away, you see the problem, don't you? That immense power runs headfirst into another one of our fundamental rights, the right to privacy. This is the central conflict, the core tension of all cybercrime law. How do you possibly investigate these crimes without just completely shredding our privacy? It's like a tightrope. Every single law about cybercrime has to walk this incredibly fine line. It's this constant, delicate balancing act between the government's need to keep us safe and our own fundamental right to have a private life. Okay, so we're peeling back another layer of the onion here, and the problem just gets bigger. As if that whole security versus privacy thing wasn't hard enough, the internet throws a massive wrench in the works. It has no borders. Think about it. Traditionally, a country's legal power, its jurisdiction, stops at its physical border. Police in France investigate crimes in France, right? That's called territorial jurisdiction. But that whole model just completely falls apart when you're talking about the internet. So what do? Let's go back to that phishing scam we talked about. What if you, the victim, are sitting in Germany, but the fake website is hosted on a server in Canada, and the criminal who stole your money is actually in Australia? Whose laws apply? Who's in charge of the investigation? It is, and I'm not exaggerating, a jurisdictional nightmare. And to even begin to solve this mess, the international community basically had to get together and create a common rule book. And that solution, for the most part, is the Cybercrime Convention of 2001, also known as the Budapest Convention. It's really the first and most important international treaty on this stuff. But here's a crucial point. Huge countries like Russia and Brazil, they've never signed it. And critics argue this creates these massive safe havens where cybercriminals can operate with very little fear of being caught. The way the convention works is pretty smart. It's built on three main pillars. Pillar 1
It gets all the member countries on the same page about what a cybercrime is. They all agree to outlaw the same basic list of offenses. Pillar 2, it standardizes the how, the procedural rules for investigating these crimes. And Pillar 3, which might be the most important part, is it creates a system for international cooperation, so that investigator back in Germany can actually pick up the phone and get real help from law enforcement in Canada.
And this really gets back to that what, the substantive law we mentioned. The convention says, okay, every country that signs this has to make these things illegal. We're talking about the obvious stuff like hacking, that's illegal access, but also things like system interference. A classic example of that is a DDoS attack, where criminals just flood a server with so much junk traffic that it crashes. It knocks a bank or a news site completely offline. By defining these crimes, the convention creates a shared language for fighting this stuff across borders.
Okay, so we've peeled back all these layers, the laws, the privacy concerns, the crazy border problems. What's the big takeaway here? What does this all mean for us in our day-to-day digital lives?
Well, it really all comes back to that central tension we've been talking about. At the end of the day, cybercrime law isn't just about chasing down the bad guys. It's about figuring out how to do that while still protecting our fundamental rights. It's this constantly moving target, this evolving effort to strike the right balance between security and freedom in a world that's becoming more digital by the second.
And that leaves us with one last, really big question to think about. In a world where pretty much all crime is becoming cybercrime, think about it. How do we protect our rights while keeping society safe? How do we build a legal system for the future that can keep us secure without giving up the very rights and freedoms that define who we are? That's a question we are all going to have to answer together.